Would you all, would you all please be seated? Good morning, friends, peers, teachers, and family. Today I'd like to begin by telling a story. One day, a religious man is eating breakfast in his home with his family on a Sunday after daily prayers. Because he's a religious man, he prays to God several times a day. He believes in the good faith of God, and that if anything ever happens to him, God will help him. Unexpectedly, as they are eating breakfast, the floor becomes wet, and then water starts forming in puddles. The family cries out in panic after they realize that it's a flood. As the water level rises and rises, submerging everything in the home, the children leave one by one. The wife tries to convince the man to leave the flooded house, but the man won't leave. He shouts at his wife, "I will stay here. God will save me." Now, because he's a religious man, he prays to God to help him survive. His wife leaves, half a day passes, and the whole street is deserted. A small rescue boat passes by, and the rider in the boat calls out, "Hey you seem to be stranded. Do you need any help?" Upon which the man replies, "No, it's okay. God will save me." So the boat continues on its way, leaving the man stranded. A day later, when the man is almost out of hope, a helicopter comes flying overhead. A ladder drops, and the person in the helicopter cries out, "Climb up the ladder. I'm here to rescue you." The man replies, "No need. God will save me." Of course, you know what the ending to the story is. The man dies. When he goes to heaven, he meets God and asks, "Why didn't you save me?" God replies, "I tried to save you 3 times. First, I told your wife to get you out, then I sent a rescue boat, and then a helicopter. You drowned because you didn't help yourself. I help those who help themselves." This is one of my favorite stories. It was told to me at something called Nirankari Sangat. When I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, from ages 3 to 8, every Sunday my family would take me to this room full of Indian people called Sangat. There we would share stories and lessons with each other and sing together. It was a Hindu religious gathering comparable to the chapel we have here. I'd like to talk about the nature of this story. The story teaches that we need to help ourselves to succeed. The main character, the man, had both good qualities and bad qualities. The good qualities were that he had good virtues and intents, he strived for purity, and he followed his religion. The bad were that he did not help himself. We can apply the good qualities he has to our own lives and learn from his bad qualities in terms of what not to do. In this way, the main character of the story acts as a role model. We can help ourselves by taking the best qualities in each of the people we meet. In fact, in stories, there are often role models with traits that we can learn from. My dad has always told me to look at the good traits in people and see how I can embody them, because everyone has good traits. So, as I'm talking about some important role models to you in my life, I'd like you to think about some of the amazing qualities about people in this chapel that you have tried to incorporate. Listen to this quote. "When you first start off trying to solve a problem, the first solutions you come up with are very complex, and most people stop there. But if you keep going and live with the problem and peel more layers of the onion off, you can oftentimes arrive at some very elegant and simple solutions." End quote. Can anyone guess who this quote is by?
Steve Jobs?
Yes. Steve Jobs has been one of my role models for a long time. For those who don't know, Steve Jobs is the late CEO of Apple. Now, Dr. Ahuja does not agree with me having Jobs as a role model. She correctly argues that Steve Jobs was not compassionate towards his coworkers. He didn't truly invent some of the things he says he did. In his younger years, he didn't show much respect towards his schooling or his family. All of these things and more comprise the bad qualities of Steve Jobs. So then, if I agree with that, why am I taking the time today to talk to you about him as a role model? And why did I spend 656 pages reading his biography? This is because when I look to Steve Jobs as a role model, for me that means taking his good qualities and trying to embody them myself, because I do believe he has a lot of those as well. Steve Jobs was an innovator, a creative thinker, a perfectionist, a hard worker. He was a designer and strived for simplicity in his work. He was a leader and a visionary. This is why I look to him as a hero. I wanted to bring this up because I think Steve Jobs is a really good example of understanding that role models do have flaws, because everyone has flaws and everyone can be a role model. I also like Steve Jobs because he continually pushed the boundaries of what the future held for him. I'm really glad I was allowed to give my chapel speech on this day, because it's the last day on which I really don't know what my future holds after high school. Tomorrow I hear back the decision from 7 different universities in the US, all of which I would like to attend relatively equally. As a result, I get to share with you the emotions that come along with that. Excitement, nerves, anticipation, confusion. I feel this because I've worked really, really hard to get to this point, whether it be on tests, assignments, exams, SATs, APs, over 20 application essays. A lot of you have gone through it, or will go through the same thing, and so I'm sure you can understand the feeling. And so, when I think about a stranger judging me on all that time and effort with either a yes or a no, it's understandably daunting. And honestly, I don't think I would have been able to make it thus far like I have if I didn't have role models who showed me that it is possible and the importance of staying calm through it all. Some of the most important role models in this regard for me have been my cousins. I have 9 older cousins who are everything from doctors to lawyers to engineers and environmental consultants. My cousin Vishal graduated from Queen's and worked at CIBC as a project manager. Last year, he applied to 5 of his dream schools in the US for an MBA. I heard him talk about the months of writing and rewriting his applications and essays to perfection. When it came time for decisions, unfortunately, he didn't get in anywhere that he applied. Despite this, he didn't give up. He has continued climbing up the corporate ladder in the hopes that someday he will be able to attend one of these universities, and he's planning on applying again this year. Another one of my cousins, Sean, had to study for and write his MCAT 3 times over 3 years before he could get into medical school. I remember the late nights when I was young, when my dad would be mock interviewing him for med school into all hours of the morning. From Vishal, Sean, and all of my other cousins, I've learned determination and persistence. At school, I've learned from teachers like Mr. Pulford and Mr. Alton Lewis that it's important to be so passionate about your area of interest, math, that you can instill that passion in others. In my opinion, what I learned from my teachers' own attitudes and what I learned from students around me, that's you, is just as important as learning the chemical equation or the historical fact. And that's why I think Appleby is so great. I'm applying to study computer science in university. And as I wrote on my application to Cornell, I could learn the knowledge I want to gain in university anywhere, even online. What I will get from university are the people I learn with and the role models who continue to shape who I am, and that's what I'm most excited for. So how do role models apply to religion? In Speak this term, each week, a pair of Speak mentors is leading a seminar on a different type of discrimination and how that discrimination can be overlooked in the school setting. For example, we've talked about gender, race, and other types of discrimination. The last club before March break, the discussion topic was on discrimination by religion. We started off with a video, and Andres sent this video out last night. But basically, it shows that in the practice of spirituality, there are many similarities across religions. For example, it shows how singing, praying to the sunrise, big temples, dancing, kneeling, and putting hands together in prayer are all actions that transcend individual religions. We also watched another video that showed how a lot of roots of different religions are fundamentally based in history and culture. We follow our religion because we believe the stories that are rooted in history. As a result, I believe adapting a religion is just a way of declaring your role model. For Christians, it's Jesus. For Muslims, it's Muhammad. And for Buddhists, it's Buddha. However, these role models have a lot of the same traits: compassion, respect, kindness, enlightenment. It's just which role model we prefer to affiliate ourselves with. I help myself by looking to the role models who were set out to guide me. We should learn from the man who drowned by helping ourselves, by learning from the role models that are in front of us every day. If you take anything from my speech today, it's that I challenge you to see and learn from the good qualities in everyone, because everyone has them. In the spirit that anyone can raise you up if you look hard enough, and the Hindu belief that there's a little bit of God in everything and everyone, could you please rise and sing hymn 531, You Who Dwell in the Shelter of the Lord?